Coming to the stage, his company is peakprosperity.com. He is an independent economist. Please welcome Chris Martenson.
And thank you everybody for coming out, and thank you for being part of this. If this is the punch bowl, I'm the guy with the turds, okay? So I have to talk about the financial industrial complex here. How many people here share the belief that I have that maybe our country's in a little bit of a financial predicament? Yeah, who's heard of the Great Reset? Yeah, I love this crowd. I love this crowd. So here's where we're at. You know, about a year ago, Evie and I were at lunch, and we were invited to a private lunch with RFK Jr., and I had a chance to ask a question. I said, hey, I got all familiar. I don't usually get starstruck, but man, he has some charisma. You know, he really does. And I said, hey, Bobby, can I say that? Mr. Kennedy, if you had one platform you could run on, just one plank, what would it be? And he said, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And I asked why, and of course he had this big, beautiful, long, involved thing that started with free market capitalism and came forward with this idea that once we have CBDCs, we are entirely out of our freedom. It's gone, and our country is gone. So I want to spell that out a little bit. So how do these things connect? One of my favorite quotes is from Leonardo da Vinci, who said, learn how to see and realize that everything connects to everything else. So that's what I do. I covered COVID, I've covered the Trump assassination, I mostly cover a lot of financial things in my job. So here's where we're at. First thing I'm going to leave you with, I'll leave you with three things. First is, right now, our country is insolvent. That's just the truth. $35 trillion in debt. We added $1 trillion of debt in 100 days. What does that even mean? Like, these are numbers that are so fantastically big, nobody knows what they mean. What's a trillion? Well, if I gave you a $1,000 bill and you had 4 inches of those in a stack, you'd be a millionaire. If I said you're a billionaire, you have a stack of $1,000 bills, a stack that's as tall as that monument back there. But what would it mean if you were a trillionaire? How big is your stack? It's 68 miles high. You'd be floating around with the Starlink satellites looking down on this whole thing. That's 1 trillion. We have 35 of those trillion, and they're piling up like crazy. If I showed you a picture of the debt of the United States in a chart, it would start out nice and slow, and it would do that. It's almost vertical at this point. So when I said $1 trillion of new debt in 100 days, let me put it in context. It took the country 220 years to accumulate its first 11 trillion in debt. 220 years. 2 world wars fought, a civil war, every bridge built, universities, everything ever conducted by the government for the first 220 years to accumulate that first 11 trillion in debt. We've piled on 11 trillion in debt in the past 4 years. What? 220 years? Like, what? And what did we spend that on? That's a beautiful monument. This is a beautiful memorial behind us over here. There's beautiful buildings. What did we spend that 11 trillion on in the last 4 years? Does anybody know? I mean, can you point to something? War. That's right. We just frittered it away, you know? And that's a shame, but it's also a demonstration of what we're up against, that we have a group of people in power right now who think nothing of spending money they don't have, expecting your children and grandchildren to pay for it, and nothing to show for it. And this is wrong. It doesn't have to be this way. In fact, it shouldn't be this way. So somebody's going to have to step up and start talking about this, because when your currency system fails on you, we call that Venezuela, we call that Zimbabwe, we call that Weimar Germany. It is not a good place to be. We don't want to go there, but we're headed there. So what do? Well, the second piece I want to leave you with then is about this idea that things are speeding up. So, welcome to the quickening. We're going to go from $1 trillion of new debt in 100 days, and then it'll be 50 days. And then you'll read a headline, it'll be $1 trillion of new debt in a month, but it was a bad month. And then it'll be $1 trillion in a week, and then it'll be $1 trillion in a day, and then an hour, and a minute, and off we go. And then it's over. So let's not do that. But that is the path that we're on. That's why we have to rescue the republic. That is why we're here. Let me be totally blunt about this. If you didn't like the 99.95% survival rate of COVID, you're going to hate a currency crisis. It's going to be terrible. It ruins lives. So that's the path we're on. So the third thing is, and here's how it ties in with the Great Reset. There's going to have to be, it's just a math problem. We have a math problem right now. And so here's the one thing you have to resolve when you get into insolvency. There's only one question. Not who do you elect. I don't do left-right. I do up-down. You either have integrity or you don't. You believe in freedom or its opposite. Alaska's for freedom. No tyranny. Thank you. Thank you, these beautiful signs. Okay. So if we're not doing left-right, up-down, we're either going to do the right things or the wrong things. And so we have to understand the nature of what we're up against here. And here's the one question that you have to resolve when you're in insolvency approaching bankruptcy, which is the legal proceeding. Who's going to eat the losses? That's the question. Who's going to eat the losses? They're working on this right now. They're working really hard at it. They want to make sure it's you. And they don't want to eat any of the losses. So that brings us to the Great Reset. And the central bank digital currencies is their answer to having really overspent and done terrible things and not been responsible adults. And when they get the central bank digital currency, let me tell you how it's going to go. Here's a scenario. Oh no, markets are down, huge. Oh no, we had to close the stock market for 48 hours. Actually, we meant 72. Sorry, it's going to be closed this week. So all your stuff went away, but good news, we have a central bank that loves you, and it's going to make you whole. Your entire portfolio is now these central bank digital currencies, except this or a zero. What do you want? A lot of people will go to zero, and what happens when you have a programmable currency? You no longer have freedom of spending. I like freedom of speech, huge fan, but we need freedom of spending. Anybody remember the Canadian truckers? Yeah, let's not become Canadian truckers. That's where they're heading us towards. So, what do? Here's my request. Every single person, it's great that you're here, but when you go home, man, we got work to do. We're going to have to rebuild our local communities. We're going to have to figure out how we actually operate, even if our currency breaks. We're going to need things like silver and gold and gardens and each other and friends and love and God. And that's what it's going to take. Because it's already happened. So let's not let the central bank digital currencies come if we can help it. When we get under that, we've lost everything. And Bobby Kennedy was right. He said, when we lose that, if we lose our freedom to spend along with our freedom of speech, and when I say freedom to spend, right, oh, you put out a bad, mean tweet, so your money is no longer any good 5 clicks away from your house, and you have to pay a different rate to get on an airplane because you said some mean things, right? And it goes on and it creeps from there. But that's it. They want control, total control, and that's not how our country got prosperous. So, I didn't start this fight, but we're going to finish it. Thank you, everyone.